Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it.
What's going on? This is the Pain Gaming channel. We're doing a little more Fishing Planet. I'm in California, the big state of California. The reason I came to California, I did a Mudwater video, and the reason I came here was a friend of mine who plays Fishing Planet asked me to come here since he found out that I'm doing videos now. Wanted me to do a video on a good lure or a good place to catch fish in Cali. So here I am. Sorry for that long explanation. The lure I'm using at this moment, I guess you'd say, is, you can see it in the top corner up there. I'm using a popper, half-ounce popper. It works really good here. You can't cast real far with it on this. There is a 3/4 popper, I think, but I'm not positive. I know that there's a 3/4 walker, but at the moment, this is the setup I'm using. It's just, matter of fact, I may have the 3/4 popper on a different rod. Whoop, we got one. Okay, that's two. As you can see, they really like the popper. I think it's on rod 2. Yeah, 3/4 popper. I'll show you the setups here in just a minute. I just wanted to do a little fishing, get my crap together before I actually started getting into the nitty-gritty of the tutorial, I guess you'd say. For me, the 3/4, I like the 3/4 popper better, but there's times that I have trouble keeping my presentation consistent, I guess you'd say. As you can see right there, he went after it, but he didn't. He decided not to take it. You'll find that a lot. They'll come up behind it, and that was my mistake. I missed that fish. What I generally do is I stop the popper. If I can see the fish coming up behind it, I just stop, let it float. Most of the time they'll grab it. Sometimes it's just like that right there. They just won't take it. I'm doing this completely wrong. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. But anyhow, I'll get this lined out, and I'll get my presentation straightened out here, and really show you how to work these lures. First, we will go to my inventory, and I'll show you the 3 Topwater setups I use here. And let's go here. Now this is my main one. This is a pretty heavy setup. I am level 40, so I've really ground through this game. But yeah, this is a pretty heavy setup. We can go to the details. It's my Rivertex 8.2. It's got a max weight of 42 pounds, and the max drag on the reel of 37 pounds. I think there is one reel higher than this one. I could be mistaken, I'm not sure. But this is a pretty heavy duty setup. Now I got gifted a DLC, which gave me this rod and reel, which is basically the Rivertex. I mean, it's basically the same one you just saw. The rod's a little bit longer. Does it handle away? Yeah, it handles just a little bit heavier line. The reel, though, is what counts. It handles, its max drag is 42, as you can see, and it can handle pretty heavy duty fish. And this one came with it. It's a little lighter setup. The rod's a little lighter, 42 pounds, and the reel is 35 pounds. But it's still a really heavy setup. It's actually heavier than this one. This, as I said, these are DLCs, and they were gifted. It was a DLC, and it was gifted to me. It actually got 3 rods, the rod and reel combos. You got a casting rod, which I don't have on me, with the setup, which, you know, it's pretty good. These are basically my Alaska poles. These 3. I use these 3 in Alaska. Because there's just big fish up there. I mean, you know. But there is big fish here in California too. You can hook into a uni, you know, unique striped bass, trophy Chinook, trophy steelhead are pretty good size. So yeah, you know, this is a real heavy setup. Now this one is not quite as heavy. It's not really heavy at all, really. As you can see, it's just a Thor 9.6, which is not an expensive rod. Not really. And the double punch, you know, it's 28.6 max drag. It does a really good job. 25 or 20 pound test line on this. I can pretty much catch anything between Mudwater and California with this with no problem. I know a lot of guys, you know, they go to Michigan and they talk about the big muskies, and I've caught really big muskies with this setup right here. You have to know your drag and how to work them. You can stop them, but you know, when you get to the level and you can get this. This will just slam the brakes on them in a real hurry. And then I've got this one, this one. Now, this rod handles a little bit better, a little bit more pounds. You know, it's 26 pounds. The other one's 21. So you can throw a 25 pound test line on this setup and not have to worry about it at all. And it's just a really good setup. You know, just make sure that you keep your line as your weakest link. Keep it below your max drag. Keep it below your max line weight, and you'll be fine. And my float fishing setup, the Brutus. I switched the Rivertex and depending on what I'm fishing for. It's mostly the double punch, but when I go to Michigan for the big blue cats, I'll switch this out for the Rivertex. Just so I can put a little heavier line on it. They are big, and you can really hook into some really big cats there. Okay, that's the setup on this. Now, what I'm fishing with today is this one, the number 2, the Rivertex, and the Thor. Oh, wrong one again. And the Loki. I'll switch between those. And what I generally do is, wrong one. What I generally do is scrolling, so many. I will take, as I have it now, I've got the 1/2 ounce on here. This is the Walker. It's the 1/2 ounce Walker. And then over here, I've got the 3/4 popper. This one is the 1/2 ounce popper. I fish with this setup mostly. And the reason why is this setup, the way it is now, I can still throw this 1/2 ounce Walker quite a ways. I mean, it's too light for this setup, but you can still cast it at a really good distance. And the Walker here is just, it's money in the bank. That's all I can say. I don't know how to explain it. The Topwater lures here will, for all you guys who fish California, you know that these were the standard baits. You know, your blues and white, your blue and white crankbaits, 6/0, 8 foot, 12 foot. They did a really good job. Or, you know, the old standard, this one, the Tiger Spoon, and stop and go or lift and drop. Used to just be the standard. But I found that these Topwaters just outdo the crankbaits 2 to 1, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but you know, I've been wrong a lot. But I think they do they do a much better job at how do I say this? It's the crankbaits work. They work well. But I can catch more fish with the Topwaters in a quicker period. I can fill my keep net quicker with the Topwater than I can with the crankbaits. That's just the way it seems to me. With this little lure, I can make, I don't have any fish in my keep net. Well, yeah, I do. You got 2. But I can fill my keep net, which is, you know, as you can see, it's pretty good weight. My keep net is 440, I think it holds. So one prime time, morning or afternoon prime time fishing, I can fill this keep net with those 3 lures. When they stop hitting this one, I'll switch to this one. It's a little bigger, it's got a bigger hook. And when they stop working at this one, I'll switch to this one. It's a little smaller. It works just as well, but it just seems to work that well by doing it that way, by switching from this one to this one to this one. As the hot spots diminish, it seems like I can keep fish coming in. So the line, well, as you guys can see what it is, you know, it's the 0.018, which, you know, is 25-pound test line. A lot of guys go by this 20, you know, A lot of people use braid on their rods. I use fluoro on just about everything. Um, when I first started the game, the first chance I got to buy fluoro, I bought it, and I've been using that ever since. I don't use braid very much at all. I bought all this braided line back way back, and I very seldom ever use it. Maybe on these casting rods sometimes, um, not very often. I was using this one just for fun in Alaska, um, trying to see if I could catch the Dolly Vardens and trout on 10-pound test line on this, and it was a chore. You can do it, but with 10-pound test line, it is a chore. But anyway, let's get back to fishing. We're going to go back to the map. Where I start, as you can see, it's getting ready to come into the prime time. I start here at the kayak or at the docks. It used to be, everybody knew them just as the docks. The dam is a good spot. There's several good spots to fish here. If you want to go there, they've changed this slightly. Fishing for carp here is really good, but also fishing for stripers now is really good over here, over through here, pitching out here. But they're not as consistent as these two spots. This spot for me is, I like catching the steelhead, the big steelhead, and the chinook. You can catch chinook and steelhead here, but not consistently. It's mostly stripers. I seem to catch more steelhead and chinook here than I do here, if that makes any sense. Let's just go fishing and I'll explain it. Okay. Wrong rod right off the bat. Well, I'll get the right rod out here in just a moment. But this is the walker. This is the 1/2 ounce walker. And where I fish for the hot spots is, as you can see, this shadow of this tree here from there to here. And it's all through here. And what I do is mostly I pitch just off the side of this point here and dead center of the point. That seems to work really well. You don't have to cast it, like I said, you don't have to cast it a million miles. Now, as you can see, I do my walker. Right? He just went after it and, yeah, did he take it? Did he take it? Nope. Changed his mind. I do a constant snap. It's a little harder to do here because of the current. There he goes. Okay, as you can see, they like the walker. This is a little lighter rod or reel, so you have to play them just a little bit more. And you jump there, but not much. You can pretty much drag them in. As I said, steelhead. 640, 11 pounds. That's not huge, and it's not small. It's about average. You will catch a lot of those, a lot off this walker and the popper. But the presentation, as I was saying, a lot of guys, and it's accurate. I fish in real life. I fish topwater and stuff in real life, and And the way they do their presentations, they pull and they stop, pull, stop, pull, and stop. That gives the fish a chance to take the lure. But I call it wacky walking, or walking the, they call it walking the dog. You get it started and you try to keep your lure moving side to side, side to side, at a steady walk all the way through the water, just like that. And if you see the swirl of the fish behind the walker, and you know he's going to take your bait, you stop your presentation and you reel straight, and he will, 80% of the time, he will snatch the bait. Sometimes they just hit at it, knock it under the water, and run away. Sometimes they just, slap at it and just completely miss it, or they just leave it. Well, as you saw a minute ago, you can, I call it light hooking. They'll grab it, but they don't really have it. RNG of the game or something, I don't know. But as you can see, it just walks through the water. Now here, you constantly have to adjust your rod because of the current, or you will stop. The presentation will stop. It will just start, it'll start coming in, it will come straight in. I don't know what it is, but it's the way they've got the water set up here. It flows to your left or toward you, and if you stop, and if you don't keep keeping your rod at a certain angle, about 45 degrees, and there he swiped at it and missed. It'll start coming, well, I'll just show you. I'll just keep, whoop, 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 there we go. You see how I stopped the presentation and just pulled it straight? That's what happens. Now, if you get a big fish on line like this, the best thing I know to do is, let's see if I can get him to, just let him take some line. Well, I guess not. Oh, he wasn't that big after all. But, okay. As you can see, I'm throwing basically right in front of that point. I let it sit on the top of the water just a moment, and then I start working it. Just working it across the water. And just practice it. When you get to the level where you can buy poppers and walkers, buy them. And it doesn't matter what lake you're on, just practice with them. There's another one. You missed it. But they will. And do not stop working the walker or the popper all the way to the, as you can see, all the way to your feet, because they will hit it at your feet. They follow it for so long, and then they'll grab it. That's a little the curse of California, the smallmouth. Let's let him go. But, if you get a big fish, which you can, there's uniques. This is unique territory. I don't know if it's unique time or not, but it is unique territory. With this setup I've got now, you have to play the fish a little bit. I guess that's why I like using it. I mean, the other ones they'll just hoss it in. There we go again. Come on, take it. Did you see? I stopped the presentation and let him come up behind it and take it. But now, like I said, if you get a big fish on and your bars are going all in the red, when you have to sit back on your, which most people, once they get to California, will know this. But you kind of got to have to sit back on them. Don't reel, because if you're reeling as he's pulling, you're just going to lose more line. It's not going to be pretty. With my other setups, I can just with the bigger setups, I can just keep reeling. I can let's see, that's what I call a light bite. He wanted it. He kind of took it, but there he is again, and he came back after it. Now this is what I mean about sitting on it. You just kind of hold him, and when all the bars go down or get green, you give him, you whoop, take up the slack. But as you see what I'm doing, I'm reeling, he's leaving. But now he's, I've got him in a position where he really can't get away. But if you keep reeling on a big fish, he will keep taking line. So the best advice I can give you is to stop reeling. Left click, sit back on him and watch your bars. And as the meters on the bars go down toward the green, then reel. Then you'll catch your line back up. Because if you keep reeling and you don't stop, he will spool you. They will take all your line. That was a big problem in the game for quite a while. That really big fish, especially muskies, really big muskies, were just unstoppable. You couldn't, even with really high level gear, you couldn't stop them. They would just spool you and keep going. And most of the guys, the higher level people, everybody knew when it got to a certain point, just Alt F4, because if you didn't, you were just going to lose all of that line, and you're probably one of your better lures. So I've been in that position. When I first came to California, that was a problem. At that time, California was a lower level lake. I think it was only like level 18 to get here. Florida is now 18, but this was before they put in Alaska and Alberta. So yeah, it was a big problem. There's really big fish here, and you came here with level 18 gear, which it's not nothing to sneeze at, but it could not stop these fish, especially if you hooked into a trophy or a unique. It was over. You just could not get them in. But I would suggest not coming to California unless you have gear that can handle at least 20-pound line with no problem. If you come out here with gear and then you decide to put 20-pound test line on your gear that's not made to handle it, it will break. Your gear will break. You'll just end up losing money. You could lose rod and reel, or just one or the other. More than likely, whichever one you go over, if you've got a good reel but a mediocre rod and you go over the rod, you're going to break the rod. And as you guys all know, there's nothing cheap in this game. It's become quite high, the costs of everything. And travel costs, they're, compared to when I first started, they're outrageous. it's a little bit ridiculous. You get a little bit more per fish, but not much. And you have to spend, to make back your travel costs, you have to spend more time at a lake. I mean, especially if you're just getting to the level where you can go to that lake. You will have to, you know, you'll have to stay an extra 2 days or something just to make the profit. But you can see that thing it really walks the dog. Okay, now so they've stopped hitting the walker over here. What I suggest is either switch over to the popper or go right here, and from that power thing, from the power of the windmill to the blue house is a really good spot right through there. And just cast it anywhere in there. You're apt to catch more smallmouth over this way. They really like the walker and the popper. They're really good. These, see, the first thing. These things are devastating in Florida. They really are. If you are coming up to be a level 18, get the walkers and the poppers before you go to Florida. Learn how to use them, or take the time in Florida to practice and learn how to get the presentation right, and you are going to slay largemouth, peacock, bass, largemouth bass, peacock bass. There's places down there where these walkers and poppers, they catch the bowfin, the gar. But the largemouth, trophy largemouth and uniques, and it devastates them. But you see what I mean about the smallmouth on this, over this way. Okay, let's release him. Now, I'll turn back and see if that brought him back to life over here. If it didn't, I'll switch to the popper. But that's the basics here, really. There's a lot of other fish in the lake. There's white catfish, there's carp, there's all kinds of panfish. If you like pan fishing or light fishing, which is fun, you know, perch. There's quite a few species here. But for me, at level 40, come on, pick it up. There you go. As you can see, I stopped it and let him, or I slowed it down. I stopped it. I went straight, stopped, and he hit it. You can actually see the fish here. That's really good. And he's not bad. Little striper. But I think that's it for me, guys.